Hey, this is part two of my special interview with author Patrick Heron. Patrick's written the books Nephilim and the Pyramids of the Apocalypse, and the Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order. And the Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order is what we're going to be talking about in this segment. So it's going to be very interesting. Almost done with this. And at the end of the show, I will show you the finished result. I think you're going to be impressed.
When it talks about the New World Order and the leaders of our world today in the EU, in Russia, in China, and in America, and all these people who want to bring in a New World Order and talk about a one world government, they always talk about the United Nations as being the vehicle whereby they want to utilize in order to bring about this great New World Order and one world government. And the headquarters of the United Nations is in New York City.
Right. Now, Revelation goes on to say that, St. John, the divine, matter of fact, I'm going to get back to him because there's a carving on the wall or the outside of the Church of St. John the Divine in New York that shows the World Trade Center as being inundated by a tidal wave. That's something I want to get back to in just a minute. But when he was having his visions, when he was shown these visions on the Isle of Patmos, he saw lightning, and he heard thunder and rumbling, and felt earthquakes. Now, can you describe what that really is in 21st century terms?
Absolutely. This happens at the end of the seven seals, the seven trumpets, and the seven vials. It talks about a huge army from the east, numbering 200 million, are going to wipe out about a third of the population of the earth in their mass westward towards this valley in northern Israel called the Valley of Megiddo. And when they get there, the Antichrist plus a huge military power from the west are there already. And there's a sort of a Mexican standoff between these huge military powers. Now, this is at the end. We're cutting to the end of the book of Revelation here, to the Valley of Megiddo. In ancient times, the Valley of Megiddo was always a valley that anybody coming from Europe and the East, if they wanted to go to China or India, they would have to pass through this valley because of the mountains running north and south. It's about, 30 miles long, about 10 miles wide. Anybody coming from the Far East and wanting to go to Europe and to the West would have to funnel through this valley. So it talks about this huge army from both sides meeting in this Valley of Megiddo. Then I believe there's a sort of a Mexican standoff. It talks about silence in heaven for a half an hour. And then John said what he saw was flashes of lightning, peals of thunder, rumblings, and a huge earthquake. And he said, no earthquake was like this that was ever seen in the world before. And he said, all the cities of the nations fell down. Now, but I believe what John was describing there was a nuclear strike, because he said he saw flashes of lightning, similar to the flashes of lightning we saw, for instance, when they were going into Iraq, and missiles firing at night like flashes of lightning as all these missiles and bombs were shot off and fired into the night sky. It said he saw lightning. Again, if you're standing near these huge missiles when they're shooting off, it's like lightning. He heard rumblings. The rumblings were the explosions in the distance when he heard these bombs going off. Boom, boom, boom. And he said peals of thunder. Again, I believe you're a military man. If you're standing anywhere near these huge rockets and missiles when they're being fired off, they're like cracks of lightning in your ear, banging off all over the place. So when he saw flashes of lightnings, he heard peals or flashes of lightning, peals of thunder, rumblings, and a severe earthquake. And he said no earthquake was ever like this in the whole world before. And he said all the cities of the nations fell down. Now, the word nuclear strike were not in John's vocabulary. John was probably in his 90s when he got this vision of the on the Isle of Patmos, when he wrote the book of Revelation. He could only describe things in terms of his own understanding and his own vocabulary. So when he saw flashes of lightning, peals of thunder, rumblings, and thunders, he was describing a nuclear strike. And the one that seals it for me, Bobby, is the fact that he said all the cities of the nations fell down. Now, brother, let me tell you, there's only one thing that's going to make all the cities of the nations fall down at the same time, and that is a nuclear strike. And that's why I read earlier describing the great prostitute, the great city, the Whore of Babylon, New York City. It's going to be burned on fire, and in 1 hour, it's going to receive huge destruction. And by the way, it says in there also in Jeremiah 50:15, she surrenders, her towers fall. And we've already seen a couple of towers falling in New York City. So it's a nuclear strike, and that's the one thing that's going to make all the cities of the nations fall down at the same time. There has never been a weapon of war designed that has not yet been used for the purpose wherewith it was designed. So Armageddon, the Valley of Megiddo, and the final, when the guacamole finally hits the fan, I believe, is absolutely going to be a nuclear strike.
So you think it will be a worldwide global thermonuclear war? Is that why Christ said that if he didn't return, no flesh would be saved?
Yes, absolutely. It says all the cities of the nations fall down. This is the worldwide phenomenon. I know there are some people that used to say that, oh, the Antichrist is going to come out of Europe and there's 10 countries. Well, there's 27 countries in Europe now. If you go in and study the book of Revelation, and let me tell you, I've done a YouTube on this because there are some people out there saying that it's all going to be confined to Israel and the Arab nations. It's rubbish. It says all the people are going to be bow down and worship the Antichrist. All the people are going to have to take the mark of the beast, and if they don't, they're going to be put to death. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and absolutely, I'm sure how many nuclear warheads in the world today? 20,000, 30,000. They're pointed at all the major cities in the world, all over the place. And when one of them hits the bomb, when one of them hits the button, the other guys are going to automatically hit the button too, and that's what's going to reduce the world to ashes. And we're told exactly that in Isaiah, where it talks about Satan and how he reduces to the world to almost total destruction. But there are going to be people saved, and there will be a remnant left over. But a lot of people are going to die by the time the end of the apocalypse. I can't remember the exact numbers, Bobby. You remember? It's either half the people in the world or 2/3. And in present numbers, that's 3-4 billion people.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question about the 200 million man army. A lot of people have compared that to China. Matter of fact, most people have compared that to China. But I've got a different theory. I'd like to ask what you think about it. The way I see it, the prophecy of Ezekiel 38 is coming in, and 39 is coming true right now. The nations that are gathering against Israel, the nations that have participated in this so-called Arab Spring, Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, Syria, they're all mentioned in Ezekiel's prophecy, every single one of them, and that they would be coming against Israel in the last days to fight the Gog and Magog War. Now, the way I see it, the people that are in charge of this world, the Satan-worshiping Illuminati, okay, let's just bring it right out into the open. That's what it is. I think that they're maneuvering these events because the United States is sponsoring Al-Qaeda. They sponsored Al-Qaeda in Libya. They're sponsoring Al-Qaeda right now in Syria and training them and providing them with weapons and intelligence and protecting them as they fight against Bashar al-Assad. The reason, in my opinion, is to install another Muslim Brotherhood government. Muslim Brotherhood is obviously the political wing of Al-Qaeda, and vice versa. Al-Qaeda is the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. So bringing this all together, do you think that there are people in the highest levels, the unseen, the capstone, if you will, on the Illuminati pyramid, that are controlling events and making things come out the way, I mean, it's coming out exactly according to prophecy? Then it can't be chance. Do you think that they're maneuvering events to work out just that way?
Absolutely, no doubt. If we're told in Ephesians that the schemes of the devil are already in operation, so they've been going on for thousands of years. I've no doubt that our top people in governments are dealing directly with Satan and with his princes, the princes of this world. possibly a lot of people in governments are doing this stuff unwittingly and unknowingly. I don't know. The thing is it's too dark and it's too deep, and we will never, but just 13, Paul said, now we see through a glass darkly, now we know in part. We only know a small part. It's a very small part of what's going on. We see through a glass darkly, like it's a mirror with smoke and mirrors. I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but the prophecies are going to happen no matter what happens. A lot of people are always going in about, oh, we should do this about Israel and do this. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. My feeling about the whole Gog and Magog War is, I think that's going to happen during the apocalypse. I don't think it's going to happen before, because it talks about coming upon a country with no walls and a country of peace. And it also talks about, in the book of Revelation, about 3 plagues of fire and brimstone. What's the other thing? Fire and brimstone. I can't remember the other expression, which I think are 3 nuclear strikes. One of them occurs in the northern mountains in Israel when they are attacked by this confederacy of Arab nations. The other one, I think, is the last one, which is Armageddon, and I don't know what the one in the middle is. So I think this is all heading towards what's coming in the future. I don't think there's going to be a big war now in the Middle East, because I think that'll put off the peace that's going to be brokered between the Antichrist and the Arabs and the Jews during the book of Revelation, because we're told in Daniel, I think is it 8:27, that he's going to broker a peace deal between the Jews and the Arabs. So
right. Here's my thought on that. Let's say that, considering the current tensions between Iran and Israel and obviously Syria, if a war started, say tomorrow, Syria has a lot of chemical weapons. And if they use them, it's my belief that Israel will destroy Damascus. And that is prophesied as well. Damascus will be a smoking ruin. And it has never in history been a smoking ruin. So what I'm thinking is that if a war with Iran starts, and the Muslim nations that are around Israel right now, and Hezbollah, Hamas, and Syria, and Jordan, and Egypt, my feeling is that they will all attack Israel in support of Iran. And Israel is going to use some of their 600 nuclear weapons. Because when the Jews say never again, brother, I believe that they mean it. And if they think that their existence is threatened, I would be in the same boat. I would glass an Arab capital. And if the attacks don't stop, I would glass another one, and then another one, and then another one. Because if my family, if my country is at risk of being destroyed, yeah, I'll kill you first.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I agree with you, Bobby, but we're into the realm of speculation now. And the point is, I think, you see, I think of a big, huge started in the Middle East now, between Iran and Syria and all this. I think I'll put off coming back for his church by possibly a long time. I think his second coming is close. I think all those things are going, because if something started in the Middle East, it will go on for years and years and years. Whereas, now this is just my feeling. I can't prove this. It's just from my reading of Scripture in Jeremiah 48 and 49, or Ezekiel rather, and that war that a lot of people like. I just feel that that's going to happen in the future, because remember, they come when they attack Israel. It's there that come on a country of unwalled country. In other words, that big wall that's there is going to be taken down. I see that as being part of the peace deal brokered between the Jews and the Antichrist and the Muslims, and the Antichrist and the 12th Imam, or the Mahdi, who's going to come. There's 2 guys that are going to rise up in the book of Revelation, period. The Antichrist and the false prophet. If you get into, and now again we're getting into a different topic altogether in another chapter in my book and another interview, where it talks about two men in Islamic prophecies in the Quran and other Islamic prophetic writings. It talks about the Mahdi, some people call him the Imam or the 12th Imam, who they are also waiting for to come, and his lieutenant, he is a right-hand man whom they name as Jesus Christ, right? Now, we have prophecies in the book of Revelation about a fellow coming in the stead of Christ. Antichrist means in the stead of Christ. Jesus said, many are going to come in my name, and one in particular is going to rise up saying, I am Christ, and he's going to have an accomplice who's going to come out of Persia called the false prophet. And the Muslims have two guys rising up in their prophecies. Their main man, who's the Mahdi, and he's going to have a lieutenant called Jesus Christ. And the Muslims have two guys rising up in their prophecies. Their main man, who's the Mahdi, and he's going to have a lieutenant called Jesus Christ, which I believe is the Antichrist coming in the name of Jesus Christ. Now we're into a different ballgame here. Yeah. But I just see the Antichrist, i.e. coming in the stead of Christ, together kicking the ass of the Mahdi when he starts kicking up dust in the Middle East. Now this is during the apocalypse. You can read about it in the book of Daniel, where it talks about the princes of Persia, which is in the book of Revelation is called the false prophet. He's got two horns, which are two other kings. And I can see the Antichrist kicking his ass, kicking him into line. They broker a peace treaty between the Arabs and the Jews, and that goes on for a couple of years or a few years. That's when these guys then at some stage move on Israel together with the Russians. That's when things start to fall apart, and that's when the guacamole starts hit the fan in the latter part of the book of Revelation, the Great Tribulation, the Day of Wrath, and which is going to end with Armageddon. But
okay, Patrick,
we're into a different ball game now, Bobby. You know.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that you'll come back and talk to us quite often. Let me ask you one last question, though. It's my understanding, this is just what I've read, but I need to get your opinion on it, that the name Barak in ancient Aramaic means lightning from the east. Have you heard that?
Yes, I've seen the video, and it's all very plausible, and it all sounds really great. And I've watched that video a couple of times because so many people have said it to me. Let me tell you here, and we can do another interview on this if you want next week. The name of the Antichrist, his whereabouts, when he will emerge onto the world stage, where he is at present, let me tell you exactly here, where he comes from, what the 7 heads are, what the 10 horns represent, are all given in plain sight in the book of Revelation. Barack Obama and Manuel Barroso in the EU and Tony Blair and all the other Putin and all the other heads of the governments and the New World Order are what I call, they're sort of John the Baptist figures for the main man who's coming in the future. Contrary to popular belief, the Antichrist is not a human politician who's going to be possessed by Satan. That's why my book is called Return of the Antichrist. And no matter what Barack Obama and all the other nefarious people who are pulling his strings, because he's just a puppet, together with all the old money and the people who run the British Empire and all the guys in Spain and everywhere else, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, all those secret nefarious people, the Masons, are a lot of whom are in hock to Satan and in train with the princes of this world. They are just preparing the way for the one who's coming. Let me tell you, the guy that's coming down the tracks is not a human politician who's going to be possessed by Satan. He's a different person altogether. If you want to do another interview about that next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Patrick Heron, Irish author. He got several books out. One very interesting one that we're gonna talk about in a future episode is Nephilim and Pyramid of the Apocalypse. That's an awesome book. If you haven't read it, then please go get it. And Return of the Antichrist. and the New World Order. So, Patrick Heron, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us here on The Truth is Viral.
Okay, this looks like it's just about done. Ooh, yeah. Cheesy. Tomatoey. Good stuff. Oh my gosh, look at all that cheese. Pepper jack cheese, I love it. Alright, well that was Patrick Heron telling us about the Antichrist and the New World Order. We'll have Patrick on again sometime because he's a fascinating guest. The next interview that I'm going to put up is with Chuck Missler. Chuck is a prominent theologian and very smart man. He's also a scientist. And he's like me. He likes to mix his faith and his science to come up with something logical. And he's got some interesting theories on interdimensional UFOs and the holographic universe that you're going to want to see. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you share this on Facebook and Twitter and every other place that you can possibly think of. And let's get some more people out here subscribing and watching the show. We get to the truth of what's going down. Maybe we can save some lives. So, until next time, my name is Bob Powell. Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. And as always, God bless. Semper Fi. Hoorah. I'm going to take this into my wife. She's going to love this. Tell me, ladies, if your husband brought this to you for dinner, would you give him a kiss? I knew that you would. I'll see you next time on Truth is Viral.